Hi, I'd like to take you through how to get best use out of my Unleash Your Value spreadsheet. First of all, a couple of important points. It's based on the 80-20 principle. In other words, 80% of our results come from 20% of our effort. Now, if we put the same concept back into the time process, we'll be able to see that 80% of our results come from 20% of the time that we use. Now, what I've done is that for most people that I know, they work extensive hours, especially the business owners, and this is really aimed at business owners. So what do I mean by that? Well, when I look at this, the first thing that I want to do is try and identify what people are doing, because I get so many complaints that they say, oh, I'm so busy, I just can't do that. I just don't know how to do that. So what I ask people to do is to take the spreadsheet and to start putting their tasks down this left-hand column here in column A. Now, I've taken the liberty of just pre-populating some tasks, but we could potentially do something else, such as proactive sales or something like that, stuff that we don't get to now that we might want to. So these are just example of adding new product development, perhaps, as examples of tasks that we currently don't do but might want to get to. So when we've got the list of tasks that we do on a weekly basis down, our next step is to start putting in the hours. And the reason that I'm putting it this way is that we want to make certain that we're getting a rough amount of time that we are spending on work things. Sometimes they're at home, sometimes they're in the office, sometimes it's all about where and how, sometimes we do it whilst traveling. There are all sorts of things that we do on a regular basis that perhaps we should be putting in. And an example of this might be, hey, I'm traveling. Half an hour each way to work, that's an hour a day, that's 5 hours a week. Let's put that in just as an example. So this is all time that I'm spent on going to work and perhaps not really using everything to the best of my ability. So the idea behind this now is that once we've got our time left, there are two things that I would like us to review. First of all, what are the things that really impact us in an energy perspective? So, for example, somebody might say that the energy impact on them from answering emails is actually quite draining, whereas doing something like ordering materials, quite neutral, don't really bother about it. Answering incoming calls, relatively neutral. Doing quotes, they actually like it. They do quotes, for example. Not so keen on operations management, and find having to work in the factory bad. Managing cash sales, draining, they'd rather not do it. Drafting, yeah, actually pretty neutral to say positive. Cash tracker, they know that they've got to track their cash, but they don't like it. It's too much detail, don't really like it. Answering simple customer queries, yeah. Sometimes it's a bit draining, sometimes it's okay, but let's just put it in as neutral. Doing accounts, on the other hand, is definitely draining. They'd love to get onto proactive sales, so it's highly positive. New product development would be highly positive. Traveling, not so much. They find that a bit of a pain. So now here's the sort of things that we can actually start taking a look at. If, for example, we start taking a look at it, the next thing is to understand the level of impact this might have on your business. Now that requires two things. One, we need to know the type of impact. Is it high? Is it significant? Is it low value, high value, or minimal? And then we also need to understand what is the level of income we are generating. Now I've put in 95,500 because in 2023, that was, according to Australian Bureau of Standards, the exact average of what an Australian wage earner took home. So I can put that in, or I can put in $1,000. Sorry, let's just leave that 95,500 for the moment. Come back to it. What is going to happen is that I need to take a look at it. So answering emails, impact on it, pretty low. Now what you'll see is that it's already put in a value of $36. What it's done is use the 80-20 principle to understand what the average is. So if we're working 56 hours a week, it really means that we're spending almost 2,700 hours in a work environment. 95,500 divided by 2,700 translates to roughly $36 an hour. And that would be the average that somebody would be working and generating at that stage. Now, there are some hours that are worth a lot more. On the other hand, if they're answering that, and generally that's low, you can see 36 hours. If they're ordering material, doing that could be a moderate, and you can see it goes up to 140, which is a little bit more impactful. They're doing quotes, which is actually, pretty significant because it starts generating a fair amount of business. Operations management, it's moderate. Managing cash sales, it's probably low. You could get somebody else to do it. Drafting designs, on the other hand, is actually quite significant. And it's not the highest value, but it's certainly somewhere, it's quite up there. And as you can see, value is about $600 an hour. On the other hand, cash tracker, it's actually significant because the company might be going through cash flow challenges or what have you. But in terms of your impact and your time, it's probably moderate. And you could probably get somebody else to do it. So let's actually just play around and say it's significant. Answering simple customer queries, probably moderate. Doing accounts along the same line is actually, it's working on it and significant. Let's see, proactive sales is really high, but we're not spending any time on it. And new product development is really high in terms of the impact on the company. Traveling, on the other hand, is really low, and I would rather try and eliminate it if I could. So let's see what happens there. So now what we have is a real value of what that means for us on a week, how much value we're generating. And it's suggesting that on a typical week, we're actually generating around about $17,790 in value for the company. And we could do more, but that's typically what it would be. Now, this is where we start taking a look at what we can do. Now, for example, where we've got 3 reds in a row here, these 2 here, managing cash sales and emails, we've got to see, can we actually do something for somebody? And we can say that, managing emails, if we do a combination of delegation and a handover and automation, with rules and arbitrage and stuff like that, we can probably get, say, 7-8 hours of it done. We still have to answer some, but most of it we can probably get rid of to somebody else through delegating to other people and automating. So what has happened is that we see that this 56 hours that we have been working on has come down to 48 because we've transferred that to somebody else. So our hours, we can see that those 8 hours represent almost 400 hours across the course of a year. That's significant. That's a month. Then you start looking at the value generated per week. Now, why has that happened? It's because, although I'm doing pretty much the same sort of thing, my hours that I'm using have become more valuable. And they've gone up, that I typically from 318, they've gone up by $426 because I'm using somebody else to do the work that I can. Now that frees me up for my own personal time, which is always significant and is where I recuperate and generate, or it enables me to do some additional work. I want to take a look at something else that is along those sort of lines. And I'd say managing cash sales. I definitely don't want to do it, so I've got a person that is in the business can do it. And I'm just going to put it, yeah, I'm going to call him Steve. And I just want him to take it over completely. Now, what is happening, as you can see, is that I'm reducing the number of hours in the business. So the average across what I'm doing is becoming much better, and I'm using fewer hours. So I'm generally doing more in my week than I would have otherwise. Now, here's something else. Now, in the drafting designs, I can add a fair amount of time to that, and I'd like to. So I'm going to probably say that I could probably spend another hour on top of that, maybe another 2 hours that I could squeeze in the week. Okay, so now what has happened is my hours have gone up again, but I'm adding some additional value in. In terms of the cash tracker, I know it's significant, but it's not going to be me. And I'm going to put it down to accounts, for example, and I'm going to give it all to them, those 2 hours. So I'm back down to my 46.5. I've realigned how I'm spending my week and my money. And now let's actually see something else. So now, look at this one here. Answering simple customer queries. Don't know if I don't want to do it. Can I move it on to somebody else? Maybe I've got to put up a generate FAQ, and if I did that, I could probably get rid of maybe 2 of those hours. I'm looking at the accounts. I don't like it. I really need to have the accounts do more of what they're supposed to do. I know that I have to review it, but I don't want to spend an hour a day doing it. Maybe 1 hour a week, so maybe I can get rid of 4 hours there. Now, I have not been doing anything in proactive sales, but I definitely want to do it. And if I can get that up to 5 hours, and if I can get up to 5 hours, that's like that. Now, there's one other thing that I can perhaps do. What about working from home once or twice a week? If I do that, I can once a week, I can actually eliminate an hour, and if I use that time wisely, it's way better for me. So I'm gonna just say I'm gonna do that, and it is work from home 1 day a week. So now I'm only come down by about 7 hours. Now that really isn't a look at that. Now I've got to take a look at where else can I perhaps do stuff that I could actually be doing. So I'm looking at the drafting designs. Is there anything else that could be there? I know that I've got to have some time there. What about this cash tracker? 0. That's fine. I don't want to do it. Somebody else is doing it, and that's good. That one is 0. Managing cash sales. So I've really got a couple of openings that I can look at. So answering incoming calls. Do I have to do it, or can somebody else do it? I reckon somebody else could do it. And if I say, delegate, so somebody else becomes somebody else's task, that might be the sort of thing that can come in. I like ordering material. I believe that I need to do it, but yeah, Steve could probably do it as well. So I can actually put Steve in there and give him his 0.5. Now what we see is that we're bringing these hours down. Operations management, I don't like it. Maybe not. But I want to take a look at this. If you look at this, even though I enjoy doing the quotes, I'm actually probably better focused on some of the other areas. So if I can actually automate some stuff and put some systems in, and I can actually cut that down by 5 hours, you can see that I'm actually coming in at a normal week, and that was pretty much where I'd expect to come in at. And you can see that I'm now coming in way more productive on a per hourly basis. I'm generating a lot more value because I'm being able to focus on the stuff that is there. If I'm looking at this traveling, I'm really trying to eliminate as much as I can. Maybe that could go up for 2 days, but it's not going to make a huge difference now, except if it enables me to do something else in its place. Now I'm looking at this, and the only real areas that open up for me might be operations management. Can I do something on operations management? I find it draining. It doesn't have that much. Maybe I can get, say, I don't know, Jenny to do 2 hours of what I'm doing, or Steve, just taking over the KPIs and admin. By doing this sort of exercise, I start finding out that this is how I really focus in on adding my value. As you can see, I've more than made up 4 times the level of value in what I do, simply by rearranging what I do, moving up, looking at what I can automate and putting out. Now that is typically on an hourly basis. I'm working fewer hours, and even so, the value that I'm generating for the business has gone up 3-fold. So you can see that by focusing on what we do, we're able to generate way more value within our business and within our task. Now there's only one other thing that happens. What happens if you're not just the average person, but you are able to generate significantly more than that in terms of your income? What if your income is 200,000, for example? We can see that those numbers jump up. The values of the task jump up. Everything jumps up in proportion. So putting your salaries in enables us to see what value per hour we're able to generate. And if we see something here that we could actually eliminate, well, perhaps that's something that we need to do. Or transfer it to somebody else, or automate it as much as possible. So that's where I get my eating time: eliminate, automate, transfer. So here's to you, eating time.